Yonkers, New York, 1865. Thunder boomed from the gray sky. The echo pierced 10-year-old Esther's ears. The chickens scampered toward their coop. A few nestled beneath a bush. Thunder usually frightened their birds. They could calm down once the rain started. She patted the bonnet covering her head. She needed to hurry and gather the eggs before it started to rain. Ma had washed and curled her hair the previous night. If she was caught in a rainstorm, her hair would go out of shape. Then Ma would have to fix it all over again. She leaned over and quickly lifted eggs from the nests. A few of the chickens wouldn't budge. She forced the stubborn hens aside as she picked up the eggs. Just as she lifted the last one and had placed it into the basket, lightning streaked across the sky. The moist scent of rain perfumed the air. She sniffed the humid breeze as she hurried toward the house. "Esther!" Ma yelled her name. Ma practically ran from the barn as if she were in a hurry. Esther stopped walking as Ma approached. She assessed Ma, as she'd gotten into a habit of doing since Pa left for the war. Redness tinged her pretty eyes. Her lashes appeared damp. She sighed. Ma had been crying again. Sometimes Ma cried so loud that she scared the chickens. Other times, she softly cried herself to sleep. Esther had tried to make Ma feel better. The previous day, she'd baked her a cake, but the treat didn't seem to appease her Ma's sad mood. "Let's play hide and seek." "Hide and seek? Again?" Ma clapped her hands together and giggled. Sometimes Ma reminded her of a child. Her mother tried to smile, but the smile didn't seem real. Her grin looked like a pretend smile. Her eyes still looked sad. At 10, she felt she was getting too old to play hide and seek. But if playing would make Ma feel better, she'd do it. "Yes, I'll play." Ma clapped her hands again. "Good. Now go inside and hide, and I'll find you." She rushed toward the barn before Esther could respond. How strange. Ma was supposed to hide her eyes and count to 10 before trying to find her. Perhaps she didn't want to get caught in the rain while counting. Well, she'd play along. Esther pushed the door open and entered the kitchen. She put her basket of eggs on the table. She entered the pantry and shut the door. She figured this was the first place that Ma would look. Once she found her, their game would be over and she could do something more exciting. She peeked through the small crack in the door just as the sound of pounding footsteps echoed from outside. A woman rushed into the house. What in the world? What was Mrs. Marlin doing here? The dark-skinned woman's head jerked from side to side, her eyes wild as she scanned the room. As she continued to peer around the kitchen, she kept her hands in the pockets of her dress. She'd not seen Mrs. Marlin in well over a year. The woman continued to scan the kitchen. "Come out, Genevieve. I've got a score to settle with you." She was looking for Ma? Why? The anger in the woman's voice rattled her bones. She'd never seen the woman look so upset. Esther remained quiet. She closed her eyes and didn't move a muscle. Hopefully the woman would go away. After searching their home, Mrs. Marlin left yelling Ma's name, leaving the front door open. Thunder exploded from the sky. Through the crack in the door, she eyed the soft rain soaking into the dry earth. Esther swallowed, her throat dry with thirst. She wanted to get out of this pantry and find Ma. Something wasn't right. Mrs. Marlin continued to yell Ma's name. A few seconds later, Ma's scream cracked through the air, just as thunder boomed from the murky sky. Her heart raced as she eased out of the pantry. She had to find Ma and help her. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew that Ma needed her assistance right now. Her brown dress immediately soaked with rain as she followed the sound of Ma's screaming, right near the barn. Mrs. Marlin held Ma's wrist in a tight vice-like grip. "You're hurting me." Ma stood in the barn, tears streaming down her smooth brown cheeks. "You sinner, you'll pay for what you did. You ain't going to heaven when I'm finished with you." Mrs. Marlin pulled a small revolver out of her pocket. Ma screamed again. The sound pierced the air over the thunder and lightning. Esther's heart pummeled in her chest. Her stomach swirled with dread. An abhorrent taste filled her mouth. She pressed her hands together. She knew she was going to vomit. She squeezed her eyes shut. Lord, help me. She couldn't get sick. She had to save Ma. She glanced around for a weapon. She needed something to knock out Mrs. Marlin so that Ma could get away. Pa's hammer was in the barn. Maybe she could get it and strike Mrs. Marlin on the head. Jesus, I need your help. Please. Ma shook as Esther quietly crept into the barn. Mrs. Marlin's dark eyes appeared demented as she continued to hold the gun to Ma's head. Don't shoot me. You should have thought of mercy when you was doing that stuff with my husband. I'll show you what I'm capable of doing. Nobody crosses me and gets away with it. She raised the gun and pulled the trigger. A loud scream pierced the air. Esther suddenly realized the scream came from her own throat. Ma dropped to the ground like a rag doll just as Mrs. Marlin turned toward Esther. Her dark brown eyes appeared glassy and crazed. She resembled a painting of a lunatic that she'd seen a long time ago. Esther stood paralyzed, frozen. Maybe it was time, right now, for her to go to heaven. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. She silently repeated the Lord's Prayer, looking directly into Mrs. Marlin's dark, deranged eyes. This was her last day on earth. She was going to die. Mrs. Marlin slowly raised her gun and placed it into her own mouth. She pulled the trigger and fell to the ground right beside Ma. Esther screamed again right before she blacked out. That is the first chapter of The Blacksmith's Bride by Cecelia Dowdy. Check out this wonderful African-American historical novel. Esther has witnessed a murder, and after this point, she becomes mute. So if you want to find out what happens next, check the comments and you will see the links to this wonderful novel. And you will also find the link in my link tree. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a pleasant day.